Welcome everyone to the September meeting of the Warren County Board of Supervisors. Please rise while Supervisor Simpson leads us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk will read the roll.
Mr. Leggett?
Here.
Mr. Diamond?
Here.
Mr. McDevitt?
Here.
Ms. Braemar? Here. Mr. Loeb?
Here.
Mr. Driscoll?
Here.
Mrs. Frazier? Mr. Simpson?
Here.
Ms. Hogan? Here. Mr. Dickinson?
Here.
Mr. Merlino?
Here.
Mr. Strauss?
Here.
Mr. Wild?
Here.
Mr. Beatty?
Here.
Mr. McGowen?
Here.
Mr. Sissoko?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Hyde? Here. Mr. Garrity?
Here.
Chairman Conover?
Here. You should all have received the minutes of our August 16 meeting, 2019. Chair will entertain a motion regarding the minutes. Moved by Ms. Braemar, second. Second, Mr. Simpson. Any discussion? There being none, we're ready for the question. All those in favor of approving our minutes of August 16 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Our Employee of the Month will be, that presentation will be moved to next month's meeting. At this time, I'd like to open the floor to presentation by the Warren County Safe and Quality Bicycling Organization. Good morning.
Good morning. I hope you can take this voice of mine. It's not working all well today. But I'm glad to be here. John Strow, our assistant chairman. I'm the chairman of Warren County Safe and Quality Biking. We're here really to thank the Board of Supervisors and the county for everything you've done to support us, the safety and the quality of not only our roads, but the increasing number of off-road trails and single-track trails. We have a lot to be proud of and thankful for. And I also wish to especially thank the tourism department because they've helped us with maps and things that information gets all over the Northeast, even into Canada. And there's just no doubt the impact that we've had working together on the number of people coming here, plus our own residents and what they gain. So thank you. I do want to just mention, we do a survey annually. We've done that for 9 years. And we're looking for ways we can improve. This past year, our survey was to ask our membership and everybody on our list what they would like to see done by the county, at the county level, relative to biking in Warren County. And overwhelmingly, the response was to improve the roads. Shoulders, width of shoulders, condition of shoulders. We've had some success working with the municipalities, townships, and the county. And I know what it is. It's not that people don't want to do it, it's the lack of funds. So we've worked with the state trying to improve the funding and also the national government. But that is something that we wanted to share with you, and that's the message from our survey. John.
I guess we all know the importance of biking, and we know the importance of this organization, which is our county board's advisory organization for the bicycle world in terms of safety and promotion. So what are we working on? We're working to get residents and visitors to realize that biking is fun. We're working to make Warren County the bicycle destination for everybody within 300 miles. We're working to make Warren County realize millions of dollars that bike-friendly communities can potentially make from tourism and visitors. We want to promote the health benefits of biking. And we want to advance biking as an alternative form of transportation. And biking is good for the environment. We're promoting our trails, such as the Halfway Brook Trail, the Halfway Feeder Connector Trail, the Feeder Canal Trail, the Warren County Bike Trail, and we're also promoting the Warren County Cycling Challenge. So we're also promoting Complete Streets. And you know what Complete Streets are. I think most of you do. It is making our streets friendly for all transportation uses, not just vehicles, but pedestrians and bicyclists as well. And Complete Streets is a national program, and that we're proud to be promoting that as well. So, Lloyd?
Okay. The Safety and Education Report, Bud and Joanne Maddox co-chair our Safety and Education Committee, do a fine job. And several of the things we've done, I have a list here. We've organized and distributed safety cards, which one of them is at your desk. We put them at the shops, bike shops, municipal buildings, and just about any place we can. And we take them to expositions that we go to quite often, including one that the Senate runs in Albany, where we've had been very well received. We've written PSAs, the Post-Star and the Chronicle have cooperated, and also we've been contacted by the two papers here in the north of us, Lake George and Warrensburg, articles about safety. We help Cornell Extension with their annual safety program for third graders. It's a state law. The Extension does a great job, and one year they were a little short, and we helped, and I just talked with them about helping again. We conduct, here's an interesting one, bicycle workshops for the student workers, you know, the foreign people coming in for the summer on the visas, and it's a concern. We get calls, people say, what are you going to do? Somebody's going to get killed. And so we've gone and worked with Mayor Blaze and their committee and held workshops in Lake George, and we've had maybe 200 people show up, and that's out of what, 1,500 to 2,000. So we're trying to figure out how we can approach and get to these people better. We're talking about going to the employees or employers and see if they would give us some time when the kids are all working there to put on something for them. So safety is a big concern. Right now we're working with Parks and Trails New York to see if we can come up with a curriculum that we could teach through the physical education classes, maybe two classes, throughout the state for the 10th and 11th graders, just before they're going to be getting their driver's licenses, because one of the big goals is safety not only for the bikers, but also the motorists, and knowing the rules of the road.
On your desk, you're going to see this magazine put together by Dave Matthews. And he's one of the people on our board. And what is he promoting? I think the front cover says it all. It's one of the newest, grandest experiences in bicycling. It's mountain biking. And so we've helped Bob Underwood in his mountain biking efforts, such as the one over on Gurney Lane, the Churney Gurney. We've helped Drew Capabianca and his efforts up at the hub in Horicans, and we are working with Dave Matthews, and as you can see this right on, if you would look through it, I think you'll be pretty impressed, and it does promote Warren County mountain biking. So, and there'll be future editions of this going out, but I think for the first edition, we need to give credit to our organization as well as Dave Matthews for putting this together.
You know, Dave is our mountain bike chair. And so also up in North Creek, we've done a lot of work with Steve Abbott and the trails up there. And we're involved in other plans and encouraging people. And we donate some funding to get the design started. Of course, we can't foot the bill. But the design kind of, if we figure if we can get it started, that's very helpful. Promotions. We've had theme rides of varying kinds, and with some success. But one of the more interesting was we met in the bike parking lot on Country Club Road, rode up to the lake, and we had it set so we'd go out on the boat, the education boat ride, and that was very successful, very interesting. And we went for lunch and then biked back. That was a great time. That's an example of theme rides. We also have had monthly rides, and they around the county. And every one of your counties has been hit probably at least once, because we'll take a loop. One of the toughest ones was North Creek Loop that came down and back 28 all the way back up to North Creek. I'm telling you, we saw some hills, but that was a beautiful ride. We've tried weekly rides with the Gray Ghost group for we call the C class. You know, the A class goes 18 to 23 miles an hour. The B class goes 15 to 18 miles an hour. Then you've got the old timers like me that's 15 and slower, if we're lucky. So that was fun. But what we find is most people have their friends, and they bike with their friends. So we've tried to organize a lot of things with varying success. The most successful thing that we've probably done is, without a doubt, is our annual Harry Elke ride. Now that it was just this past weekend. Weather didn't help us this time, but every other year it's improved in attendance. And the Harry Elke, if you don't know, he's born in Glens Falls, buried in Glens Falls, was a world champion biker right around 1900. Now, can you imagine riding a bike in races, what the bikes were like in those days? Man, not like my 30 speed. But ironically, he was killed in a race around 1900. So we also publicize every ride that we are aware of that takes place throughout the year on our website in every ride in Warren County.
All right, now for the fun time. These are beautiful, and I think Mike Wild has plans for this one up on top of his fireplace mantle. Brian has offered he'd like to use it as part of his wine bottle collection. In any event, they are handmade wrought iron, as you can see, with the image of a bicycle. And if I have a couple of questions, and if you can have the right answer, you get one. I've only got 2 of these. So let's see how you do. All right, Section 1234A of the New York Vehicle and Traffic Law says that you must ride in this direction because it makes you more visible and predictable to motorists. Now, yes, Ms. Braemar.
Same side of the street as the vehicles. Direction with traffic.
Yes. And that goes
The winner
to
goes to
Supervisor Braemar.
I should know the answer.
I will ride at home.
Thank you. Right at home? Yeah.
All
Right
right,
behind the
next.
motorcycle.
Yeah.
I know you were disappointed that the first one went away, but you do have a second opportunity. And this is Section 1230A of the New York State Vehicle and Traffic Law, and this says what to bicyclists as they approach the traffic signal?
Obey the traffic signal.
They have to obey all the same signals as all other vehicles, motor vehicles included, and that's correct.
He's always a former teacher, right? He always has a quiz.
Now, the third question, in case nobody got one of the first 2, but fortunately you did, the third question is, what is New York State's best mountain bike system of trails according to singletracks.com? Yes,
Gurney Lane.
you are right, but I don't have any more prizes.
I smell the fixes in.
But
I go to their board meetings.
anyway, what is the future of bicycling? All right, well, you probably all well know that the Champlain Canal Trail, which is going to be connected to the Erie Canal Trail, and it connects New York State north and south and east and west, will be connected to the feeder canal trail. There is millions of dollars set aside to assure that connection, which will include bridges as well as the tunnel under one of the, I think it's 196. So they're serious about this. So we're working at interconnecting the trail systems that we're developing here. We have the Rush Pond Trail. We're working on developing the Halfway Brook Trail, and then the Halfway to Feeder Connector Trail. All the trail systems, the main framework will all be interconnected So you could go to Glens Falls, you could go to Lake George, you can go to Queensbury, and we're working at making it Warrensburg and further north, so we're trying to interconnect Warren County to the nation and the world here. So, so the interconnect trails will provide for a healthy arrangement for our community going forward. I think Lloyd's going to talk about this, but it's something that as we put together this presentation, we both thought was important. I don't know if you're aware of the 2019 Bicyclists Bring Business to Glens Falls. Lloyd's probably going to expand on that. But bicycling is our future, and we want to know that Warren County is where you want to go to have good bicycling.
You know, last September 11th and 12th, through Parks and Trails New York, we hosted at the Queensbury a meeting on bicyclists bring business. Very informative, and the data that they give is so supportive of the millions of dollars that bicycling brings to local areas. So at this meeting, they discussed a lot the Champlain Canal Trail. A fellow that I've met is Andy Beers. I don't know if you know Andy, but he's the director of the new Empire State Trail and everything they're going to do. One of the things that Andy has told us is that our organization will be asked to have input on what they call the gateway, which will be actually a structure, like a kiosk, over where Feeder Canal, yes, connects to Champlain Canal. And if you haven't been over there, a lot of that work's already been done. So we're very excited about it. We're going to put some money into it out of our treasury, and what we want to do is attract as many bikers going up and down the Champlain Canal, come over, head west, go to, well, Hudson Falls, Glens Falls, Queensbury, Lake George, and we're going to have information on other destinations that they should think about. So we're really excited about this. This is big. So anyway, for any more information that you would like on our organization, go to our website, bikewarrenco.org. We're very pleased with that. And thank you so much for, 9 years ago we were nominated, or you folks made us a Citizens Advisory Committee to your board. And between the two of us working together, we definitely have made Warren County the quality and safety of bicycling improvements. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for that bipartisan presentation. Chairman's report. Very busy month. August 19th, I attended 3 committee meetings. The 26th, I attended the Health and Human Services Committee meeting. On the 27th, I attended the Health Insurance Working Group. A number of you were on that group. Suffice it to say that I think that we have achieved all, at least to this point in time, all that we were hoping to achieve through self-insurance and avoiding increases, exorbitant increases in our health insurance costs. And I, for one, couldn't be more happy with all of those involved in helping us achieve that, staff and all of you. On the 28th, I attended the Occupancy Tax Committee meeting. On the 29th, I attended 3 committee meetings. On September 5th, I attended the Legislative and Rules meeting, largely dealing with sales tax. And at this time, I just would like to once again compliment our county administrator. I thought his 36-page report and presentation at that meeting was very professionally done and very well presented. On the 12th, I attended the grand opening of the Warren County Historical Society Museum. Many of you were there. I think you'll all agree if you haven't had a chance to walk through the museum, I would recommend that you do so. On the 13th, I attended the Personnel, Higher Education, and Finance joint meeting at the college. dealing with the college's capital improvement requests. And on the 19th, I attended the county facilities meeting, and later I attended the presentation of the year-end audit report. I think our county treasurer will have more to say on that, but generally our finances look very good. And my final comment would be that I do believe today is Kevin Hajos' birthday. Is that correct? That's the thing about Facebook, say you. So, in any event, happy birthday, Kevin.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And that concludes my report. Report by committee chairman, Mr. Simpson, Supervisor Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You stole my thunder on wishing Kevin Hajos a happy birthday. I also saw that on Facebook. And happy birthday, Kevin.
Thank you.
So the DPW met, our Public Works Committee met on August 20th, and although there's no specific resolutions in your packet relating to that meeting, we did make some progress. Swede Tower, that was a trail that we were trying to secure. That agreement was agreed to, and we're moving forward with promoting a hiking trail next year, having a hiking trail, and I'll be working with some volunteers to get organized for clearing that trail in the spring. Next, we talked about the snow and ice contracts, the reimbursements or the payments that go to the towns for the towns that plow county roads, and the reimbursement rate is going to be moved to $9,095 per mile there. And also, of course, this is the big weekend in Warren County in the fall that we all look forward to with the Balloon Festival, and we have beautiful weather, which is just what the committee had ordered and demanded. And Kevin and his crew are busy keeping that going, and we look forward to having everybody there. I also attended NISAC earlier this week, their fall seminar, and I do have a list of all their resolutions that we passed and we worked on. It was a very good conference. I won't go through all those resolutions and everything that happened there, but I do have these if somebody would like to review those. And with that, that concludes my report.
Well, thank you.
That was quick.
I was in it for the long haul.
Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Cornell Cooperative Extension had another busy month, as always. Their annual meeting and volunteer recognition is Thursday, October 17th at Highland Golf Club. Everyone's invited. There's an invitation on your desk. There are mums for sale at the CCE in Warrensburg. They're very reasonably priced, beautifully grown in their greenhouse. Please avail yourselves of that service. It helps a worthy cause. And CCE received a Designing Healthy Communities grant to make communities more pedestrian friendly. So we'll be excited to hear that. Thank you, Dr. Stevens. That's it.
Thank you. Supervisor Dickinson.
Yes. Oh, you want me to speak? We had a meeting. Architects Committee met on August 28th. We have two resolutions in your packet, 392 and 393. 392 is an agreement to pay out of architects the fee for the lease of the Lime Trail from the Lime company. We had it reduced to 2,000?
2,500.
2,500 per year. I think it's a really good deal. It's there for us. We also have 393 is an agreement to do two things. We are going to pay the Adirondack Civic Center, the pool center, $100,000 in OCTAX a year for the next 5 years to help them develop their capital improvement fund and do some capital improvement. I think this is a good program. The group has done a stellar job with the Civic Center. I think this is the last big hurdle for them. Obviously, a building that size, there's a lot of capital in it and a need for capital improvements. So I think this is a great thing. I think it's the last step in really getting them up and running and being independent and being a great regional contributor to our economy. There's no issue about it, so this is a good thing. We also had a presentation by the CVB, the Convention Visitors Bureau, by Gina Metzner. That also is a great thing. They are working towards becoming independent, which will be really good for all involved. They have taken the money that we gave them last year and done a stellar job promoting tourism in conjunction with and parallel to our tourism department. They are working very well together on parallel but different paths. They've come in with a program to expand their concentration, including working on the expansion of destination weddings. Lake George region is a great wedding destination. Has a lot to offer on a year-round basis for weddings, and they're hoping to promote those. So we've agreed to increase their funding for this coming year and look forward to another great year with them working together with the tourism department. And I have one last thing, not to be slighted. You look on your little magazine, there's a cute trail. Lake George and Queensbury, it's like down to Lake George and Queensbury for 300 acres. In Lake George and Bloody Pond, well, on Bloody Pond Road. And we made applications for grants. Done conversation with the state biking organization has been very helpful. We're looking forward next year to starting bike park there. Hopefully next year we'll be going, ready to roll. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Supervisor Dickinson. Supervisor Merlino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tourism met on August 28th. We only have two resolutions, 398, awarding the bid to Wilkinson's Publishing for our 2020 travel guide. And the other one is a resolution 299 to authorize in-state and out-of-state travel and Canner promoter codes and promoter marketing blitzes. And the only other comment I have on tourism is we set up a meeting with STAR. Everybody hears the word STAR program, tells us what they're doing. We're going to hold it on October 10th at 6 p.m. in Lake Luzerne Town Hall in our senior center. Everyone's welcome. There'll be representatives from STAR itself to give nationwide reports on hotel industry business and focus on Warren County. So press release is going out. Each one of you will get some information. So I hope we can get some of the supervisors there, and plus anybody that's interested in learning how the STAR report works. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Straub.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, as we all know, I'm assuming you all know, that the Balloon Festival started off with a big bang yesterday, and a lot of times, the people that go into making the Balloon Festival happen don't get the credit that they probably deserve. And my eyes were open being appointed to the Balloon Festival Committee this year. So I want to thank those people, and under the leadership of Mark Donahue, for making things happen. But the city of Glens Falls last night, working with the Balloon Festival Committee people, did a wonderful job at both Crandall Park in downtown Glens Falls. If you weren't there, you should have been. It was alive like I've never seen it, with the antique car shows and the music and the people in the street. What a wonderful event. And we have many others going on this weekend, and I'm sure you'll participate those. And many of you senators will be joining me at 4 o'clock in the morning for helping to direct traffic. And so we all look forward to that, don't we? Waking up at 3 a.m. to get there. All right, so the Balloon Festival, bravo, thanks to the good weather, it's off to a good start. On the business side of things, Legislative and Rules Committee did meet on September 5th, and because of the promotion of Supervisor Simpson, we had a resolution before you today. It's Resolution 391, and 391 is basically asking you to support the New York State DEC as well as the New York State Attorney General's office in appealing a decision that limits the takedown of any tree of any size. We think that various activities, even though it's in the Forest Preserve, you will need to take down small trees. And we should allow the New York State DEC and others to decide which are the appropriate trees to take down. But this absolute thing about taking down no trees just isn't going to work for anybody's favor. So that resolution is that you support appealing that decision to the court, and you support saying that let the DEC make some decisions about what trees should be taken down and so forth, okay? And so that's before you. Again, that's Resolution 391. And that's it for me. Thank you, Supervisor, Chairman.
You're welcome. Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I don't chair any committees, but I've been active in all the ones that I participate with, and I'll pass the torch to the supervisor to my right.
Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Wild.
Supervisor Beatty.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the Balloon Festival is off to a roaring start with the weather. What's that song? Up, Up, and Away? I don't know who sang that, but it's Up, Up, and Away for Queensbury, Glens Falls, and whole Warren County. We met facilities on August 20th. There's one resolution there in front of you, Resolution 373. It's fairly self-explanatory. It's just authorizing CNS to do some design work for the snow removal equipment building. That was already in the works long before we came out with our latest list of who's approved to do work and so forth. We also met in a special session facilities did yesterday, the 19th, and two resolutions are in your packet, and I just want to make sure that you understand them. There's Resolution 414, and basically that is declaring the county no longer intends to own the property on River Street, the former C.B. Geiger building. That will need a 2/3 vote by this board to be approved, and it will be a roll call vote, obviously. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands 414. If they have questions, if I can't answer them, Mary's right here, but it's fairly self-explanatory. And then that resolution authorizes us to sell the property, that specific property, to Perkins Recycling for $450,000. So I want everybody to, if you haven't had a chance to read that, because it only happened yesterday, take a moment, read through that resolution. But I gave you the gist of it just now. But it's very important that we all get a good handle on that. And then Resolution 415, which basically says that we had a resolution in place but was not executed, being the chairman has to sign off on it, was a lease agreement with D&G. That was never executed, and basically what 415 is saying, that we will rescind, we will authorize the chairman to rescind that resolution. Okay, so we're saying, Mr. Chairman, don't sign that 6-month lease agreement, and that's what basically 415 says. So I summarized it for you. Hopefully that helps you. If there's any questions, just let me know again, or Mary. She's very capable and sitting right there at the front of the board. That will conclude my report, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Mary, do you want to amplify on 415, what 415 does, or has that been stated correctly?
No, sure. So to clarify, 415 will just rescind both of the resolutions that authorize 6-month leases with D&G. So it'll take those resolutions off the books.
All righty. Any questions? Ms. Braemar, did you have a question?
No, it looked like Supervisor Stroud was missing a resolution or something.
Oh, I see.
So I was trying to tell him it's 4:15.
All right.
Do you have it there?
Let's be clear. If you don't have it in front of you, John, we'll certainly get it in front of you immediately. Do you have 415 there?
I can't find 415.
On the revised index.
We'll move on, John. We'll certainly entertain any questions at the appropriate time. Supervisor McGowen.
Thank you, Mr.
Well,
Chairman.
let me look for it.
I do not chair any committees, but I do enjoy going to all the meetings that I can, and I want to thank all the chair people and the other members of the committees of being able to work together in this unity that we have. I also would like to say I did also attend with Mr. Connor and Chairman Connor and other people the Historical Society, which really I do recommend you have to get over there. It's amazing what they did with the building and to do that. And then later on that evening, I did attend the ACC meeting on the clean air in that, and talking about Foster Wheeler and the trash plant, and it was basically based on, looking into more recycling, where we can limit some of the things that go into the trash plant and making the air safer. And I think this move for Perkins coming in for recycling, which would make it a lot easier, in with the county of pushing for more recycling. But it was an interesting meeting, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more of that in the future. But and I'm looking forward to my volunteering work at the Balloon Festival this weekend, and I'm pleased that we're going to have nice weather. Now, if the wind just is appeasement, we're going to have a great turnout. So I've had fun in the past, and I look forward to it this weekend. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Sissoko.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance met on August 29th. Before you are resolutions 371, 372, and 404 through 413. I look for your consideration on these. For the most part, these were housekeeping items, with the exception of 412 and 413. Those took place at a joint personnel and finance meeting at SUNY Adirondack. This was last Friday on the 13th. 412, and if we need more clarification, I'm sure our administrator, Mr. Moore, can help, but this was for past paid time off accruals granted by Warren County at the request of the sheriff. For the most part, this is necessary because we are pretty much just codifying a practice that has not been done with an unwritten policy. And 413 is in support of the 2020-2021 capital improvement plan for SUNY Adirondack. They always do a wonderful presentation. They have quality staff there, and the entire project comes close to $5 million, just shy of it. We are responsible for 50%. However, this $2.5 million or so will be taken care of by chargeback and other items such as donations. So that was good news. And I believe that's all I have, but our treasurer, Mike Swan, would like to...
Without objection. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, everybody. I have a few items to just bring everybody up to date on. The first one is the chairman mentioned that he was at the audit meeting yesterday. Basically, I'm pleased to announce that our year-end audit found no reportable findings or adjustments, which means it was a clean audit. And once again, my staff has done an excellent job of making sure everything is done correctly. My hat's off to them. One thing that they did suggest that we do, and is something that I will probably be bringing to Finance Committee the next meeting, is concerning our minimum amount of fund balance on hand. And they were concerned that we have just a resolution that states dollar amounts, and they feel that we should be doing a percentage amount of our total, which I agree with. So we will be discussing that more at the finance meeting, bringing that forward. The other thing, a couple other things here, sales tax. I'm sure you've all seen that it's up 2.8%, which is great. However, I do have some concerns, and this relates to the state budget as far as taking some of our sales tax money to adjust the amount that was lost from the state aid to towns. I'm kind of concerned about how this might play out. The budget office has not informed us of anything about this, how much they're taking, when they're taking, how they're going to do it, or anything else. So that makes me very skeptical. The other side of that is that they state that the internet sales will more than make up for this. I have some very big reservations about that. Based on the information the state has given me, our internet sales have gone up. There's no question. And then they're going up about 2% a year. But our retail sales collections are stagnant or going down, which tells me that the people aren't buying on the internet and at the stores. They're doing one or the other. Okay? And that concerns me because if they're doing one or the other, then we're not going to see an additional revenue from the sales tax to offset what the state is going to take to supplement to the towns. And I'm not trying to hit on the towns. This is a budget thing. This is the state. This is, you know, and I just want to let you know that I'm concerned about this because I think in the future it will cost us some money. I think it's going to be a loss of revenue to the county, and you know, my personal feeling is it's unconstitutional what they're doing, but it is what it is. Just an FYI. On a better note, more positive note, the Human Resources building at the south end of our parking lot here had a 20-year bond on that, taken out in 2009. That bond is now, bonds I should say, is callable in December. I'm working with our financial advisor right now to refinance those bonds for the next 10 years. And based on the information we're dealing with right now, it looks like we're going to save between $2.5 and $3 million in interest payments over the next 10 years. And actually, that might even be more after the article I read in the paper this morning that the feds dropped the rate a little bit again. So that might even bump that up some more. And in relation to that, in the future, sometime in the next couple of months, I will be asking this board to pass some resolutions to authorize me to do those things with the bonds, and I hope you will give me your support on that. And also, we will have to go through the whole rating system for a new bond rating. And with what I just saw in our audit and how we're doing, I think that bond rating is probably going to go up some, which will also save us some money. Questions?
Very good. Yeah, we'll entertain that. Anyone has any questions for the treasurer at this stage?
Good job. Good job. Keep
Good
up
job.
the
Thank
work.
you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sarah, Jim, expect to conclude my report.
Very good. And now to the man of the hour, the very, very busy Supervisor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Budget Committee did not meet in the last month. However, the Budget team met with every department in the county. I want to thank the department heads for their efforts putting together budgets. Budgets were submitted last Friday as requested, pretty much. We didn't really do too much cutting during the meetings. The budget has been moved on to budget officer recommendations. So we are reviewing the budgets, and we'll make changes as we see should be made. Each budget will be brought to the respective committee this starting Monday, and each committee will have an opportunity to review the budgets. Currently, the budget is up 8.87% over last year, which is about $389,000. Where it's going to end up, I think between 1 and 1.5% increase probably. I do plan on scheduling a budget committee meeting to discuss reserves. I'm working on a proposal for probably about a half a dozen reserves to establish, and that's pretty much my report.
Thank you, Supervisor Thomas. Supervisor Hyde.
No report.
Supervisor Garrity.
Personnel, Matt, we have 4 resolutions in your packet. The most important one would be 403, which is the insurance rates for next year for dental and health insurance, vision care, and they all stayed pretty reasonable. We're pretty happy with the way Yeager and Flynn has done their job with our health insurance. That's my report.
Thank you. Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Criminal Justice Public Safety met on August 19th. I want to thank Vice Chair Supervisor Garrity for presiding over that while I was absent. Before you are 5 resolutions, 4 from the DA, 1 is from the Sheriff's Office. 2 are for authorizing grant submissions to the Division of Criminal Justice Services, and 2 are for authorizing agreements. 1 is for digital storage of files and for a service agreement with Nemur Ford for Sheriff Office vehicles. And 1 is for extending appreciation to the state of Ed and Marilee Litwa for the gift of 12 paintings to the DA's office, which we're very thankful for. Also, attended the senior picnic held at the Fish Hatchery several weeks ago. It was a beautiful, cool day there, and it was very well attended. Went to the Warren County Historical Society Museum opening. They are so grateful for the supervisor support for that nice facility that we now have for the county. Also went to the NISAC Fall Seminar and attended several good educational workshops, one on the county revenue update and on county tourism. On the county revenue update, it was interesting to see that Warren County has one of the highest per capita revenues of sales tax in the state of New York. And on the tourism, there was presentations by Sullivan County, Orange County, and Ulster County, and I would say that Warren County is right up there as well in what we do for tourism in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No committee reports, but I'd like to thank the Tax Committee and the Board of Supervisors for their financial support for the pool insurance arena for the next 5 years. We know how important it is to the community, but to have the Tax Committee take that seriously, I appreciate everything that they've done up to this date and their continuing investment into the pool arena, which is very critical to the county itself. So thanks again. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Supervisor McDevitt.
Yes, thank you. And I'd also like to echo Supervisor Diamond's comments. It's critically important, I think, for the county that we have a vibrant, economically viable downtown. It's just important for the very again, vibrancy of the city and the county. Also like to thank Travis and Supervisor Beatty for the sales tax discussion. We're going to have a healthy discussion, and hopefully that process will move along. And I think the general observation is that we put in place, if something happens with this, that we put in place controls to ensure that the dollars are allocated and spent correctly. Lloyd, thank you for your comments as it relates to bicycles. And John, there was a young gentleman who I see working out at the Y periodically. His name is Mark Antonio, and he basically won the Ironman scenario up in Lake Placid, and he's a young man that's obviously in incredible shape. I didn't hear anything about electric bikes, John. I see more of those running around the countryside, and that's just another observation on how biking becomes popular, and all of a sudden we see an offshoot of that industry just because biking has become so popular. Attended a picnic a week or two ago up in Warrensburg. That's a great spot to hold picnics, and a beautiful Sunday afternoon, and you've got a great community. Supervisor Garrity. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Braemar.
Thank you so much, Chairman. I have several different things, so just bear with me. Environmental Concerns and Real Property met on August 16th, and there are 3 resolutions before you. One of them is 381, which was submitted to you as revised, proposed amendments that I had worked on based on some feedback that I got after the meeting. This is a resolution dealing with collaborating with the other lake communities in the state who have been designated by the governor's program as vulnerable for harmful algal blooms. So it's a collaboration among the other communities and their county governments to work on this particular issue, which, as we know, Lake George isn't affected yet, but there are lakes in our close to us in proximity that are already being impacted by the HABs. One of them being the Moreau Park Lake. So it's a concern, and it is definitely creeping into our area, so we need to be careful about it. I am in full support of protecting Lake George and all of our water bodies, Supervisor Merlino. I'm definitely 100% in support of collaborating with the other lake communities across the state, sharing our information and experiences, because Lake George is on the leading edge of a lot of this. I think that we can really demonstrate to the rest of the state how to make this work and do it effectively. So I'm fully in support of working together to advocate to the governor for programs, funding, however we can make that work. In the last couple of days, there have been some concerns raised and about the language in the supporting documentation to this resolution. I do not have any qualms about passing this resolution today, but I know that Supervisor Simpson had some concerns raised to him recently, and that was, some of them were by our own county attorney, so we want to take a look at them, and I think Supervisor Simpson wanted to table this resolution today. I think it would be appropriate.
Is that a motion to table you're making there, Chairman Braemar?
Yes.
There's a motion to table, a second by Supervisor Simpson. Motion to table takes precedent. Discussion ends. Are we ready for the question? All those in favor of sending this back to committee for some wordsmithing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. So we will be addressing that resolution, I hope, at our next committee meeting, which is very soon. So we'll be working on that quickly with the county attorney. Also, coming out of our committee, actually this did not come out of committee. We, as you guys all know, we've been working for years on the Bay Road property, the Mullins building, and we're moving along. We are looking at getting a demolition plan so that we can understand what exactly needs to be done. That way we can go out for bids on the actual demolition of the building, and we need to know how much that costs. We would like to take the money out of our environmental testing reserve fund, and looking more closely at the purpose of that fund to make sure that we could use the money for demolition related purposes. It turns out that it's probably better if we amend the purpose of that testing reserve fund to indicate that it can be used for remediation, restoration, and demolition in addition to just testing. So there is a floor resolution number 1 that would revise the purpose of that fund to allow for the use of the money for those purposes, and it also authorizes $4,300 to be taken out of that fund to pay for the preparation of the demolition plan.
Okay, that'll be taken care of under the reading of resolutions.
Okay. So that's that one. Also, in the Real Property Committee, we had the last chance meeting back over the summer. We have had people coming to us asking for additional extensions, looking to pay off the full amount, and the county treasurer's office as well as the Real Property Director have been working hard on those requests, and I will be bringing those to the committee on Tuesday for your review of what has been happening. But we're trying to keep people out of the foreclosure to the extent we can, especially those who are low income, and this is their primary residence, and in a lot of cases it's their sole asset. So just wanted to make you aware of that. Also, with respect to the recycling issue that was brought up earlier, Superintendent Hajos' department is working on seeking a recycling education grant for Warren County. So that would be really great if we can get some money to help get our residents to understand better how to divert waste from going to the incinerator by recycling it. Since we had our Warren County Safe and Quality Biking Organization here today, I just wanted to put another plug in for the opportunities that would be available if we had a rail trail in Warren County for biking purposes. Just two more things. The Climate Smart Task Force will be meeting in October, and I also want to put a small plug in for Glens Falls, which there was an article recently in the Post-Star about how nearly half of all business owners, myself being one of them, are women-owned. And this is the 7th highest percentage in the county. I'm sorry, in the entire country. So it's really exciting for Warren County to be that high in percentage of women-owned businesses. That is my report, Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Loeb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Support Services met twice in August. All of our departments, we have 10 departments under Support Services. They all do a fantastic job for the people of Warren County. At the meetings, we had self-insurance. They do a great job. IT, also a great job. Our county clerk, fantastic job. And Board of Elections, also a great job. There was a lot of discussion about electronic poll books and Board of Elections. And I see there are 2 or 3 resolutions in our packet which will help move that process forward. So I hope you get support for that. Now, I'm a member of the committee that Supervisor Braemar chairs for the environment. And not only, let me step back, not only do the people that work for this county do a great job, but this board, every member on this board does a great job. You can see the content of the various resolutions in this packet today covers a wide breadth of issues. Some are going to affect us in the short term, some are going to affect a few people, some are going to be in the long term and affect a lot of people or a few people again. I have my youngest grandchild is 5 months old, lives in Queensbury. They enjoy living in Queensbury. Thank you very much. She will be 81 years old at the end of the century. And I mention that for time perspective, because likely most of us won't be there for her birthday. But she'll be there for her birthday and her children and our grandchildren and great-grandchildren. So why is that important? I know we've tabled this, so this is not a debate issue, but Resolution 381 is likely the most important resolution we will vote on this year, if not next year and last year. Well, 8 years ago or so, Dave Wick came to us and talked about Asian clams in Lake George, and they had just been discovering Asian clams and expressed the issues and talked about the science surrounding the issues of Asian clams and why we should be concerned with them. And now I see a story in the Post-Star that says there are now 20 beds, small and large, 20 areas where Asian clams have been discovered in Lake George. But the attitude that came out of the article was, well, you know, we were really worried about it in the beginning, but it doesn't seem so bad. So steady as she goes, we'll keep working on it. But what that says to me is that we've adapted our thinking. When I was a child, my father was a biologist for ENCON down in the Catskills, but I would go on road trips with him, and I remember driving by Lake George when I was a kid, and he said, that lake is so clear you can see the bottom. And the reason for that is due to the environment of the lake. Well, as you know, anybody that looks at the lake now, that is not as clear as it was. The environment has changed on the lake. When we talk about environmental change, we don't talk about drastic changes, like temperature change. We don't talk about changes of 10 degrees. We talk changes of a fraction of a degree, which will affect the environment. If you look at the human body, our temperature, 98.6, if it goes up a few tenths of a degree, that could be a fever. Something's going on. The biology of our bodies, the biology of the lakes and our water systems are very delicate, and they'll protect themselves if we don't impact that biology and that environment. So this resolution 381, which is going to be tweaked some more for the better, is the biggest change I saw already. Supervisor Braemar was the addition of the part of educating the populace of the importance of this issue. We may not be able to stop Asian clams in any of our lakes and milfoil in any of our lakes. We may have to live with them. They're here. They're part of the environment of the world and Mother Nature, so we may have to live with them. However, we don't have to contribute to their health. And by allowing the nutrients to go into the lakes from our housing and our roads and just human living, that's contributing to changing the environment of the lakes, which allows these other organisms to come in and change the quality of the water that we enjoy today. So we'll be doing more work on this, 381. Thank you, Supervisor Braemar, and I hope you'll give us support when the time comes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Love. Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. I was also able to attend the OFA picnic, the Historical Society open house, the Quality of Bicycling Forum, and I also want to mention to that I took away from that recent forum in Glens Falls that bicycling also includes the opportunities for families to bicycle. I can remember bicycling with my parents and my siblings. The destination was the local ice cream place, and we had a wonderful time. I think my parents were bicycling on bikes that were made in the early 1900s, but yet we didn't have all of the fancy outfits and attire, but we certainly contributed to the economy, had a great time, and it was a good bonding opportunity for families, and that was one of the points that was articulated at that particular forum. Last night I was at Crandall's Park in Glens Falls until my wife picked me up and we headed up to Lake George Elementary School for a Warren County Health Services forum on vaping and e-cigarettes. Our local health services continues to do a lot of work on that issue, as well as opiates and a number of other issues important to quality of life, how we take care of our seniors at senior living opportunities in our area. I'm very excited that I've got family from Massachusetts and Rhode Island who are on their way up to this area for the Balloon Festival this evening. I can promise you they have fat wallets and they'll be spending a lot of money, and I think that that's a wonderful opportunity. Anytime that we have an opportunity to work with tourism, work with our occupancy tax folks to make sure that we're creating opportunities for people, not just local people, to have a good time and spend money, but also bring people into our area to have a good time and want to come back. So that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Report by the County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 5 employees this month who are celebrating 25 years of service with Warren County. They're Tracy Graves at Countryside, Robert Lagoy and John Mayday from the Sheriff's Department, Kelly Brendan at the Office of Aging, and Josette Kill from Social Services. 25 years is quite a commitment, and I thank all of you for your dedication and hard work. Also, thank you and congratulations to the Treasurer's Office for another year of unqualified opinion and no findings on the audit. They do a great job managing our finances as well as our debt load, as Mike alluded to, paying down our bonds. And also our investment policy. We've made some very wise decisions over the past year that leading to the county having larger interest income, and we're keeping our investment here locally, which is fantastic. So thanks to the Treasurer. And I want to pick up on the point he made about the sales tax being diverted for the AIM payments. I'm worried about that too, and I also worry about the precedent of this. If you look at our 7% sales tax locally, 4% goes directly to the state, and 3% goes between half and half county and the localities. This is coming off of the 3%. So, you know, the state used to pay aid to the towns. Instead of doing that, they're taking it from the towns and from the county and then giving it back to the towns. It's the first time this has been done, reaching into the local revenue, which is authorized by acts of this local body. And as long as we're having this discussion about the sales tax and what we might do with our local rate, that's really something that we ought to keep in mind, is that the state for the first time has diverted some of that revenue, and I really hope they don't continue that. That's not a financially responsible path. We've got 5 resolutions today that were not approved by their committees in time for the initial mailing. All 5 have been subsequently sent to the board, and a few of them have already been mentioned, including Resolution 412, which Supervisor Sokol mentioned. This was adopted by Personnel and Finance, and the purpose is to codify the sheriff's paid time off accrual policies in writing. The Treasurer's Office has asked that we do this because it's best practice for auditing purposes to have these in writing. This resolution ratifies the sheriff's accrual requests that have already been granted by the county, and Sheriff York will be submitting a written policy for future accruals that you'll be asked to approve at a later date. Major LaFar, who's here this morning, will have the opportunity to revise that policy upon taking office if he sees fit to do so, and that would again be done with your approval. Resolution 14, also adopted by Personnel and Finance, 413, as Supervisor Sokol mentioned, just to expand upon his explanation. 50% of the program funded by the state, 50% by the sponsors, but that's not actually coming out of Warren and Washington counties. It's neutral to our tax levy because the SUNY leadership has done a very good job in their long-range planning and their ability to attract, in addition to students who are from here, students who are not from here. And so those capital costs, the sponsor share, is picked up entirely by other counties that are sending their kids to our school. Which is a very good thing for us. The third, as Supervisor Beatty mentioned, Resolution 414 was adopted yesterday at the Special Facilities meeting, authorizes the sale of the River Street building to Perkins Recycling. Perkins was deemed by the committee to be the highest responsible bidder. They bid $450,000, and they have the cash on hand that will be used to execute that transaction. The other bidder, D&G, submitted a higher bid, but they do not have the cash on hand to support that bid without a bank loan, which D&G has not yet secured. So Perkins will be accepting the property as is, with all existing easements, rights, licenses, privileges, and other existing agreements, covenants, conditions, restrictions, and the like. Perkins will also be accepting a deed addendum, which states that the environmental concerns relating to this property are there. It indemnifies the county from liabilities in relation to those environmental concerns, and it specifies that the property is to be used in a manner consistent with the requirements of DEC and the EPA. The restrictions and covenants that are contained in that deed addendum will run with the land. They'll bind future owners of the property forever, and once we execute this sale, the proceeds will be used to construct the storage facility that we need for the county's EMS equipment, and we will be seeking permission from the board to establish a reserve for those funds to be used for that purpose. Resolution 415, as Supervisor Beatty mentioned and the county attorney expounded upon, also adopted yesterday. It's a follow-on to 414, and it rescinds those prior resolutions that authorized the 6-month leases with D&G at higher monthly rental rates. The reason why these were not executed was because the staff held them because we knew that there was a possibility of both Mr. Perkins and Mr. Finger being interested in purchasing the building. We wanted that conversation to play out before we locked ourselves into a 6-month lease and charged the current tenant at a higher rate. We thought that was the fair thing to do. This resolution simply formalizes for posterity that the contemplated leases are no longer authorized by the Board of Supervisors. But obviously, if this board doesn't agree to sell the building today under Resolution 414, I would also please ask you to reject Resolution 415. They go hand in hand. Supervisor Braemar mentioned the Flora Resolution, Flora Resolution 1. It'll be numbered as 416 if it gets on. As you know, this is the former Ironworks property on Bay Road. It's been on the tax foreclosure list for years. The county hasn't received any tax revenue, I think, since the 1980s on this property, and it's deteriorating to the point where it's becoming a safety hazard. I want you to know that the county and the town of Queensbury are working on a partnership to remedy this and get this, promote a useful life for this parcel in the future. Thank you to Supervisor Strau for meeting with us and having those conversations. But first and foremost, we have to remediate the asbestos there. We need a plan to do that. We need to know what kind of financial commitment we're looking at, and that's what's needed to move this thing forward so that we can sit back down with the town and work out the long-term plan. This resolution will allow us to do that demolition plan. We have 3 amendments to resolutions. Resolution 393 from the OCTAX Committee. The Treasurer's Office has requested a technical correction to clarify that the monies for the Civic Center Capital Fund and for the CVB 2020 Marketing Plan will be expended in 2020, not 2019. And both of these expenses are included in the 2020 budget for next year. Resolution 400 from Personnel. You do not have this amendment in front of you, but it's a simple one. This is the monthly compensation schedule amendment. Sheriff York's confidential secretary, Jennifer Smith, who has worked very hard and been a great asset to the Sheriff's Department, is leaving the department effective next Friday. The good news for the county is that she'll be staying with us and moving over to the Self-Insurance Department, where I'm sure she'll do a phenomenal job. Major LaFar is requesting that Jen's confidential secretary position be changed to a senior account clerk, which is a union position. And the amendment to Resolution 400 will be to delete the position of Secretary to the Sheriff at a salary of $48,222 effective September 30th, and to create the position of Senior Account Clerk number 7, base salary $39,216 effective September 30th. And the third amendment is to Resolution 408 from Finance, needs a technical correction to reflect that the advance from the OCTAX reserve will be booked in a receivable account rather than an appropriation account. To conclude my report, since the August board meeting, along with the budget review team, we've met with every department to review their requests for next year. As always, there are challenges that we'll have to tackle to balance next year's budget, but I do want to commend our departments for coming in with reasonable requests as they did this time last year. We have an excellent budget process here in Warren County, thanks to Budget Officer Frank Thomas and the review team for making that possible. And other than the budget, the other things that have been keeping me busy include the Board of Elections funding, which was fully restored by the state. We got the full amount. The sales tax distribution, the leadership transition in the Sheriff's Department. Thank you to Major LaFar for all those conversations. Where I think we're off to a really good start there. The launch of the Veterans Peer-to-Peer Program and the Property and Casualty Insurance RFP. And on that last piece, as you recall, the county's bidding out our property and casualty insurance for the first time in 20 years. Phase 1 of that RFP is done, and 5 highly qualified brokers have submitted proposals along with their preferred markets. Markets refers to which carriers each broker wants to work with to develop the insurance proposals for the county. Different brokers have unique business relationships with different carriers, so it's in the county's interest to know which carriers are preferred by which brokers. We asked for those lists, and given that information, I worked with our insurance consultant to make market assignments, and we've received positive feedback from all the brokers on the carriers that they were assigned, so that's very good. They will work with their assigned carriers to develop quotations for the county's insurance, and the proposals will come back in broker-carrier teams, and our consultant will assist in analyzing all of these proposals and recommend the best broker-carrier combinations to the board for your approval. I'm very happy with this process, and I hope that it results in some savings for us for next year and beyond. And that concludes my report.
Very good. Report of the county attorney.
Yes, thank you. In anticipation of the board passing Resolution 414, selling the property located on River Street in the town of Queensbury, I'm going to walk the board through Part 2 of the environmental assessment form. I will be asking you 11 questions that specifically pertain to the sale of the property. If you feel the question can be answered with no or small impact may occur, please say nothing. If you feel a moderate to large impact may occur, please say no. If there is silence, I will check the box for no or small impact may occur. Does anyone have any questions before we start?
Oh, I'm sorry. Supervisor Dickinson.
I see your handy-dandy map here on Mary. There's two parcels here. Which one are we selling?
I'm going to defer to Kevin on that one.
I can't read a word on here. I assume that's the big one. That's the bigger one. Okay. Thank you.
Supervisor Braemar.
Thanks. Do we have blank copies of the Part 2 available so we can follow along? No. Okay.
We didn't hand out Part 2, just Part 1.
You'll read the...
I was going to read that.
She's going to read explicitly what's
And-
on Part 2.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Thank you. Could you go over if it's no or small, we're to say nothing?
Correct. And moderate to large, say no.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I did email it. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, I saw it. I know but I didn't bring a copy with me.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right, are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
Go.
All right, question 1. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walking? Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies? Will the proposed action impact existing public-private wastewater treatment utilities? Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, including wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, or fauna? Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? Okay. Because the board answered all those questions with no or small impact may occur, I'm going to check the box that says the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. And then this board will pass that in Resolution 414. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Reading of communication.
Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting Corp. Financial Report stated June 30th, 2019 and July 31, 2019. Lake George Park Commission 2019 Asian Clam Lakewide Survey Final Report. National Grid Semi-Annual PCB Inventory Report for January through June 30th, 2019. Warren County Probation Department Monthly Reports of Criminal and Family Workloads for the months of June and July. And then we've received 3 checks from the Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting Corp. The 2018 benefit distribution payment numbers 3 and 4, which are each for $6,348, and a July payment of $4,755.
Reading of resolutions.
Before we do the reading of resolutions, we do need a motion to amend Resolution 400, as outlined by Ryan, to delete the position in Creat and other in the Sheriff's Office.
We need a motion to amend Resolution 400, correct? Resolution 400 as established by the County Administrator. Moved by Mr. Sokol, seconded by Mr. McGowen. Any discussion? All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, proposed resolution numbers 371 through 411 were distributed to the members of the Board of Supervisors on September 11th. Resolution numbers 393 and 408 were amended after mailing. Brian outlined those. A motion is needed to approve the amendments to both as provided.
We need a motion on this to amend those two resolutions. Supervisor Dickinson, second. Supervisor McGowan, any discussion? All those in favor of amending those resolutions signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, proposed resolutions 412 through 415 were those that were developed after mailing pursuant to the personnel and finance meetings at SUNY Adirondack and the county facilities meeting. A motion is needed to bring 412 through 415 to the floor.
Supervisor Molino on the motion. Was that Supervisor Wild on the second? Supervisor Wild on the second. All those in favor of bringing them forward signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And finally, there's the floor resolution that needs to be brought to the floor. That was outlined by Ms. Braemar and Administrator Moore.
Motion to bring the resolution as outlined by Supervisor Braemar, by Supervisor Beatty on the motions, second by Supervisor McDivitt. Discussion? All those in favor of bringing it to the floor and make it part of the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay,
Carried.
Floor resolution number 1 will now be resolution number 416. I would also note that the resolution index does not list resolution 379 as a roll call, and that will be required. It does list 410 as a roll call, and that is not required unless someone wants it.
310.
All right. Now I will open up the podium to anyone from the audience wishing to address the board regarding any resolution presently before the board. There being no one wishing to address the board at this time, I'll now open up to the board request for roll call. Supervisor Strauss.
Yes, I'd like to request 413 and 415.
413 roll call and 415.
Yes.
Okay,
please.
roll call. Any other requests for roll call? Supervisor Braemar.
At the risk of being awkward, I would like a roll call on 391, please.
Roll call on 391. Any other requests for roll call? There being no other requests for roll call, I will now open up the floor to discussion on resolutions presently before us. Supervisor Braemar.
On 383, it's actually 82 and 83, I just wanted to point out, I know Administrator Moore mentioned it briefly, but the peer-to-peer program in our Veterans Office is just getting off the ground, and our new staff person, Vanessa, I can't remember her last name, is doing a phenomenal job and is taking our veterans to Ground Zero on a field trip. And that's coming up very soon. So if you know any veterans in your life who would like to be part of that or could be a mentor in the peer-to-peer program, please have them reach out. It's a really great program for our county and our veterans in our county.
Any further discussion on 382 or 383? If not, I'll close discussion on 382 and 383. Discussion on other resolutions. Supervisor Strauss.
Yes, I'd like to discuss 414 and 415. Again, 414 is to sell a piece of property that the county currently makes $85,000 a year on. It could make more in the future. We have a lease agreement with a particular company for that property. I think it's a good investment. We had that property appraised at $665,000. So we have a proposal, and that's part of 414, to sell it for $450,000. I interpret that as a $215,000 gift to the buyer from the public, because it does have an appraised value of $665,000. It does have an assessed value, that property, before the subdivision of $2.9 million. The larger share of the property, as well as the larger building, 25,000 plus square feet versus 800 square feet, the largest share of that $2.9 million assessment is going to a proposed purchaser for $450,000. Again, I don't think it's in the best interest of the community of Warren County to proceed with this matter, given those numbers. Given those numbers alone, I think they're ample. But if you look at the bids, there was a bidder who came in even higher. But they didn't go with that bidder because they didn't think that bidder was the most responsible bidder. I think an argument can be made that the bidder that was the most responsible one is the one that's there now. That argument can be made. So I am going to be opposed to 414 and 415 if 415 is activated, and it would be by an approved vote of 2/3 of this board. For those very reasons. I think it's financial. I think going ahead is and breaking a lease with an individual and so forth. I think this is so wrong in so many categories. But the big category is is what we're shorting the Warren County taxpayer. Thank you.
Further discussion on 414?
Mr. Chairman? Right here.
Supervisor McDevitt.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I completely concur with Supervisor Strow. This is a $215,000 gift to a potential purchaser. If we are going to sell the piece of property, let's sell it for an appropriate value. The value is too low. Again, a $215,000 gift. That being one area of discussion. Another area is just basically the underlying philosophy of leasing versus purchase. As Supervisor Strow is indicating, we're getting $85,000 a year to lease. What is wrong with continuing the leasing process? That's the way wealth is accrued. But again, how do we gift $215,000 to any purchaser? We are giving the store away, and I would argue that is irresponsible in today's economic age.
Thank you. Supervisor Braemar.
Thank you. I would like to note that there are significant repairs needed to the building throughout, as far as I understand, and definitely to the roof. So I know that the appraised value was as is of the building. That weighs on my mind that someone's not going to give us $600,000 when the building needs some significant work. And we did go out for a competitive bidding process, and we didn't get $600,000. So that's on my mind. And with the chairman's permission, I would like to hear from our bidder, Mr. Perkins, since he's here, about what he intends to do with the property and the intensity of the usage there, as it compares to what is there now.
There's a request to ask Mr. Perkins and or his representative to address the board in terms of his plans for the building. Is without objection. Supervisor Dickinson?
I object. I don't think that's any of our business.
We have an objection.
If he's going to do something with it, he's going to go to the appropriate boards and get it approved, other than what they're doing. I don't think that's any of our business.
I think all those in favor of allowing a simple question of use of the building to be answered by the bidder signify by raising your hand. Opposed? I think we'll allow it. Mr. Perkins, if you could just quickly just let us know what your thoughts are on your future use of the building.
Well, I've got to put about $300,000 into it. The roof itself on the main building, and how much on the scale house, I don't know. But that's been leaking for years, and that's all got to be rebuilt. I've got to put a new scale in because the scale doesndoesn't work since I left there. And so I've got to put about $300,000 into it. And it's what I'd like to do. Well, clean it up naturally, but, and then next year, I'm thinking about maybe putting a strip mall out front near the road and not utilizing that whole, you know, there's a big parking lot there, which would help the tax roll.
In the building itself, your use, just quickly, your use of the building?
Oh, the building now?
Yes.
Oh, I'll use it for my recycling. But that's like that baler that's in there. That baler is probably as old as I am. And I have one that's got to be rebuilt. I just had one rebuilt 2 weeks ago, which I'll put in right away, take that one out of there. And then my other one that's in my other warehouse where I'm at, I'm having that rebuilt and put back in there where it originally was when I used to rent from you people.
So your plans are to continue it as a recycling center?
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, yes, yes.
Ms. Braemar,
Yes.
Is that satisfactory?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Supervisors, Lowe.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Perkins Recycling has actually done a pretty good job for this industry, for our community. One small client, the Canal Library, uses them for recycling their old books that are no longer usable in the library. Perkins did a good job for them in the past, and I'm sure they will continue in the future. There are 2 points that have been put on the table regarding this issue. One is the assessed value. Well, just as in selling your house, you may have it assessed for a certain price, but if no one's willing to pay that price, you have to lower the price if you want to make the deal. And that's the case here. We've asked more than once who wants to buy this, and the highest bid that has come out was $500,000. And the committee has decided that the $450,000 bid, which was a duplicate of a previous bid, was the most responsible bid. The other aspect, which I think is actually more important with regard to what our job is as government. We're not real estate brokers. We're not real estate tycoons. If owning real estate and renting it is a profitable business, well, let's let the private enterprise make the profit. That's not our job. It might be nice to have all these things where we can rake in money, but what we're actually doing is supplanting the possibility for private enterprise to have the opportunities to rake in money. And aren't we supposed to be doing that? Aren't we supposed to be here to make it easier for the people in this community to survive, to live, to make money, and to enjoy being residents of Warren County, not to take their opportunities for business away? So that's a real point that sticks in my craw, that someone wants to, or let me rephrase that we might consider using a rental property as an income source at the expense of allowing private enterprise to use that property. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Supervisor Simpson.
I'll let Mr. Moore had his hand up. Did you want to speak to anything?
If I have the floor. Sure. Without objection, sure.
I just had a point of my own to make. The notion that the county would give a gift, it's impossible for the county to give a gift. It's banned by the state constitution. The state law is set up to address this. It's County Law Section 215. Says if a county wants to dispose of a property that's no longer needed for governmental purposes, we have a competitive process and we go with the highest responsible bidder, which we did. The state constitution is not set up to prohibit a county from surplusing a property. It's set up to get what the market's willing to pay, and that's exactly what we did. In terms of the future of the rental income on this property, in a perfect world where the current tenant stayed in perpetuity and paid the rent in perpetuity, we would have some income there, but there's no guarantee to that. We're looking at a 6-month lease. What if this individual who's leasing the building from us wants to retire in a year? That income goes away. The last time we put it out to bid for a lease, there was only one interested bidder, the current lease holder, the current tenant, I should say. In owning this building, there's expenses associated with it. We insure it. We almost didn't get insurance on it because of the issues with the use of the property. We would have to put a new roof on it. So the notion that, and also we need a new EMS facility. This facility is not suitable for our EMS equipment, so that's a cost to the county. The notion that by going with continuing to do a lease, that's financially responsible, I take issue with that. There's a lot of costs in the future if the county goes that road, and not a guaranteed revenue stream. The county purchased this property for $1. It's next door to a Superfund site. We're selling it for $450,000. I think that's a pretty good deal.
Supervisor Beatty.
Yes, Mr. Moore said a lot of things that I was going to say. I put a lot of thought into this because I can make an argument both sides. The fact that we bought it for $1, and now we may sell it for $450,000, to me, is a financial gain for the county. I'm into smaller government. I agree with Mr. Loeb. We shouldn't be owning businesses that the private sector should be owning. So I totally agree with you on that. I also agree with Mr. Loeb when he says it's only worth what someone's willing to pay. I mean, how many times does somebody put their house on the market and put a price and they never get it? It's only worth what somebody's willing to pay. I mean, that's the reality we live in on anything, whether you're selling a bike or a house or anything. The fact that I'm skeptical about the lease only in the sense that my concerns are, can the individual currently in the business maintain that business? He's had some financial difficulties at times paying the rent in the past, so that's a concern of mine. At the end of the day, I'm probably going to support selling this for $450,000. To me, it's a $449,999 gain for the county. We've put it out for the bid the 2 times. This is basically the best we can do, and it makes our government smaller in the sense of we don't own, we're not in the leasing business, and we don't own a building that we can sell. So. It was a tough call for me, but I spent a lot of time going back and forth, but I'm going to support selling this building and property today. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Garrett.
Yeah, the one point I'd like to make is this property is now not paying taxes. As long as the county owns it, it hasn't paid taxes since the county purchased it for $1 many years ago.
That's correct.
This property will go back on the tax rolls, and I caution people to remember, you look at the dewatering site in Washington County, you saw what happened there, and the site goes up, and they're owed millions of dollars at least. This property will go back on the tax rolls, potentially $2.7 million, I think. Is that what you said it's assessed for now?
Well, the whole property was assessed at 2.9, and I said that it's been subdivided, but the larger building and the larger share of the property is what's being sold.
But I look at this as a win-win for the community. We get out of owning something we shouldn't have bought in the first place. I don't believe we should have. And it's going to go back on the tax rolls potentially for more businesses in the town. So anytime we can take a piece of county property that we don't need, declare that we didn't need it, and put it back on the tax rolls, I think it's a win-win.
Before we continue, Mary, you have something?
Yep, I just want to be clear about the legal process. The deed says that the dirt is not to be disturbed. If the dirt is disturbed, it will have to be tested. If it's tested and there's found that there's contaminants in the dirt, then the Environmental Protection Agency could go after Sibagagi and make them clean up that entire site. If there's costs associated with that, Sibagagi will have to pay. Sibagagi will then sue the county to recoup their costs on that. Then the county will have to sue Perkins to recover their costs on that. So I just want to be clear about what the legal process would be if there's still contamination on that site.
Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, one of the things that I haven't heard, you know, you've all made some good points, but I have to, you know, side with Supervisor Lowe and Beatty and really Ryan for our administrator with informing us of some things that we need to look at. But something that I haven't heard that we really need to think of is the amount of equipment that is being stored there and how we store that in the future. If you put a dollar value on that equipment, and if anybody knows that they've ever had a vehicle that sat out in the elements, especially not on a concrete pavement and that, you know, how it rots out from underneath. So if we look at the value of all that equipment and being in a contained unit where we can build a garage and just transfer the money over and not cost the taxpayer and be able to maintain our equipment and also give some extra room for Mr. Hadro and his equipment, you know, I think it's a win-win situation. And like you said, really, the value, I understand that, you know, it's assessed higher, but we can only get what people are willing to pay. So
Before I return
to
to Supervisor for a second round, is there anyone that has not spoken that wishes to speak to this issue?
Thank you, Mr.
Jack?
Chairman.
Supervisor Diamond?
This decision for me is very easy. Decision to be made today. Number one, we're putting a piece of property on the tax roll. We're not going to the fund balance, or we're not going to take on any new debt to build this building to house our emergency response equipment. And we're getting out from underneath the liability. The liabilities cost the county up to $100,000 for roof repairs. The scale house is going to be rebuilt, reconstructed, certainly in disrepair. And not only that, but the county's already invested about $100,000 into the building. We've got to stop spending money on this building, do what's right for the taxpayers, put it back on the taxpayers, and that's cut our loss.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak at this time?
One last comment.
For a second time now. Supervisor McDevitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I object to the analogy of us competing with private enterprise. That analogy would hold true if it was not a Superfund site. That's a monumental and major difference. Number two, we purchased it for $1 many years ago. Well, in my judgment, that was $1 too much. Anyone that would purchase a Superfund site for $1, I think you ought to go get some analysis, okay? That is not a good decision. And I would argue that the supervisors who made that decision years ago, I don't know what they were drinking that day, but it certainly wasn't anything good. I would basically also say that there's nothing wrong with a long-term lease to a principal purchaser. Not a 6-month lease. Maybe we argue for a 20-year lease, and that I think, you know, ultimately in an RFP basis would be very plausible. And at the end of the day, in terms of a purchase, we're selling the property cheaply, and we're not getting the appropriate value. Thank you.
Supervisor Strauss.
Yeah, two brief points to conclude is that currently we're getting $85,000 a year for it, and it would not be unreasonable to say over a 10-year period that the potential income that would be generated from this building approaches $1 million. But the other thing, and perhaps more important, is it's a 25,200 square foot building. We're letting it go for less than $18 a square foot. To rebuild this building, if I understand current rates of per square footage, and perhaps Supervisor McGowen can reinforce this, they're running around $200 a square foot. So to rebuild this building of 25,200 square foot would cost over $5 million. So again, I'm taking the position, I don't think it's a good deal what we're doing here for the Warren County taxpayers.
Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. A couple of comments. As this board knows, I've been a champion of trying to make this sale happen for probably close to a year, if not more. And I appreciate the support that the board is giving this and the consideration that they're giving this. One of the key points is that we keep on hearing from time to time about the environmental issues and the fact that this is a so-called Superfund site. It's not. It's adjacent to one. And if you read the documents that are held in Crandall Library that were produced by the EPA and the DEC, you can read that there were test wells on the property that we own and are proposing to sell, and none of those test wells showed any contamination. So this is not a Superfund site. The site adjacent to it is. So let's try to be clear about the arguments that we're producing. And secondly, it is true that we do compete as a rental, as a landlord with this property to lease this. We are competing with private enterprise. And in my sense, it makes the best sense to allow the private enterprises, the private capital in our community, take this and make something happen, put it back on the rolls, the tax rolls, and I really truly believe this is the best decision for the county to make, and I appreciate the support that seems to be garnered from the supervisors here. Thank you.
Supervisor Thomas.
There's been a lot of nice comments, but I would just like to ask, where do we stand with the OES storage building? We've been building that building for, 10, 12 years now, and we finally have an opportunity to get this building built and take care of the equipment that we have with no burden to our fund balance or the taxpayers other than selling this piece of property. I think it's a pretty simple decision myself.
Anyone else wishing to speak at this time? Then I will close discussion on 414 and 415. Discussion on other resolutions. Supervisor Braemar.
I wanted to bring up, with respect to 393, which is the SUNY Adirondack, oh no, it's not 393, I don't know what number it is, the SUNY Adirondack capital plan. I'm very much in support of that, and I would ask that our budget officer think about making one of those reserve funds that you mentioned earlier related to SUNY Adirondack's
I think it's fair to say
capital needs.
Stay tuned. I think you're going to see something coming on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Supervisor Thomas.
Yeah, SUNY is the first two that I have on my list, operating and capital improvement.
Awesome.
Very good.
We are on the same page. Supervisor Thomas.
Shocking, isn't it?
That was an easy pitch. I won't take advantage of that. Supervisor Loeb.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. To finish out my discussion earlier about my granddaughter, the turn of the next century, the quality of the water that we see in the lakes of Warren County, not just Lake George, Lake Luzerne, Louis Lake, well, I don't know if Louis Lake's not in Hamilton County, I guess. All of those lakes are going to be impacted by the decision we make when 381 comes back to this board. Thank you.
You're welcome. Discussion on 381. Supervisor
Just
Braemar.
quickly, we will be bringing that back in improved fashion, and also to let you know, there will be a second separate resolution discussing the importance of all of the water bodies in Warren County, including Lake George and all of our others, including the Hudson River, Friends Lake, everything. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Thomas.
Yes, as chairman of the Soil and Water Conservation District for Warren County and conservation districts in many counties throughout the state, the majority of them, stormwater is something that we've been dealing with for since I've been on the Soil and Water Board, which is 16 years. This is nothing new. There's many projects that we have done around the county. We also discussed the possibility of a lake manager position. We haven't moved that forward as of yet, but that's a possibility. We do forest management. We help property owners with their water issues or soil issues. So I'll support your resolution and everything, but these are things that we're already doing. We have water quality committees. One was just established for the Upper Hudson River watershed, the Lake Champlain watershed. So, as I say, I'll support whatever resolution you come up with, but these are things the soil and water districts have been doing for many years.
Thank you. All right, discussion on other resolutions. Supervisor Loeb.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I could just add to Supervisor Thomas, this work that Supervisor Braemar doing is actually going to give you more strength, because I applauded everything you've been doing, but you've been up against a lot of public resistance. So what you've been doing in some cases has been a battle. It's taken work. So I guess I would add to my point that I'm looking for ways to make it easier for you to do and to be more productive.
Right.
Thank you.
We've really closed discussion on this resolution, so but I understand completely, and as stormwater and on-site disposal issues become better known, and I think that we're going to be having a lot more discussion and action on this going forward. Discussion on other resolutions. Then I will close discussion on resolutions. And we will vote on resolutions.
Resolution 371, making supplemental appropriations. Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowen?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Braemar?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 372, amending Warren County budget for 2019. Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Braemar?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 379, authorizing sale of Town of Queensbury tax map parcel 308.8-1-56 to National Grid. Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Braemar?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 391, authorizing appreciation and support of New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and New York State Attorney General's Office appealing July 3rd, Appellate Division 3rd Department's decision. Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Braemar?
Recuse.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 400, amending table of organization. Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan? Yes. Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde? Yes. Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 404, establishing capital project H389 Airport Snow Removal Equipment Building. Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan? Yes. Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde? Yes. Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 405, authorizing appropriation of funds from the Airport Repair and Projects Reserve. Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan? Yes. Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde? Yes. Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 407, authorizing appropriation of funds from the computer reserve. Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan? Yes. Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde? Yes. Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 408, authorizing advance of funds from the occupancy tax reserve. Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan? Yes. Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde? Yes. Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 409, authorizing appropriation of funds from the environmental testing reserve. Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan? Yes. Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde? Yes. Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
I don't think so, but if you want to.
Whatever makes you comfortable.
Yeah.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 413, support,
410.
nope, 410 is the one I told you, it doesn't really need one unless anyone wants it. 413, supporting Adirondack Community College Capital Improvement Plan. Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan? Yes. Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Approve.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde? Yes. Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Resolution 414, approving and authorizing contract for sale of property located at River Street in the town of Queensbury. Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan? Yes. Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
No.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde? Yes. Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
No.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes. That passes.
Resolution 415, rescinding resolution numbers 249 of 2019 and 304 of 2019, authorizing 6-month lease agreement with D&G Recycling. Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan? Yes. Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
No.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde? Yes. Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
No.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
And Resolution 416, which was the floor resolution, amending Resolution 84 of 2013, establishing a capital reserve fund and amending the Warren County budget. Mr. Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan? Yes. Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde? Yes. Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Braemar?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Chairman Counselor?
Yes. Motion on the rest. Supervisor Simpson, second. Supervisor Dickinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? They are carried. Thank you, Amanda. That was incredible. Now I'll open up the floor to anyone in the audience wishing to address the board regarding any matter. Yes, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just would like to thank the board for their support. We've been working a long time on this project, and I appreciate the support that we've received. I would like to throw one thing out there, which is a little comical. Back when Warren County bought that property for $1, Warren County came to the closing and no one had the dollar. Mr. Borges, who was supervisor for the town of Queensbury at that time, pulled a dollar bill out of his pocket and handed it to the representative from Warren County, who then in turn handed it back to the town of Queensbury. So in reality, I'm not sure who really owns the building. No, I'm only kidding.
Did they spend all their money on whatever they were drinking?
That's exactly right.
I'm almost afraid. Announcements. Supervisor Braemar.
There is a climate rally today up at SUNY Adirondack until 2 o'clock.
Supervisor Simpson.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I got two things. First, I want to ask, do I get to do this again next month, start with me, or does it go... I just want to find out if I'm going to get to say no, because we all said yes today. There's a lot of yeses. But
No, I think we'll move on to
Okay.
Supervisor Hogan.
well, anyway,
We don't want to tax you in any way, you know.
anyway, the most important thing that I want to announce is at NISAC, our very own Amanda Allen was recognized for her accomplishment of her training, and she received recognition of that from the County Government Institute and along with Cornell University.
Oh.
And she deserves... She's done a great job, and it was great to see her up there receiving that. And I've got photos if anybody would like to see.
Andrew.
Thank you. After everybody's done enjoying the balloon festival, the leaves are almost at peak, so please remember to take a drive north and enjoy some of our scenery. And the second Adirondack exposure calendar is out. I don't know if those of you who were here will remember that Supervisor Vanzelo was featured in the last one. I am not in this one. But the proceeds are going to three very good not-for-profits, the Elizabeth Nash Foundation, the North Country Ministry, and the North Country Hardship Fund. So if anybody wants one, I have some here for you. Thank you.
Supervisor Garrity.
Yep, just a reminder, world's largest garage sale will be October 5th and 6th, so please come spend your money in Warrensburg.
Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sunday, September 29th is the annual Taste of the North Country event in City Park. That supports Fauna's events as well as key clubs throughout the region. Also, the Adirondack Thunder will be starting their home season in the middle of October. Certainly fun and exciting family entertainment. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to recognize two things. One, thanks to Supervisor Simpson for chairing the Warren-Washington County IDA. He recently stepped down, but he did a great job pulling that organization together. So thanks to Supervisor Simpson for being in that position. Also, a shout out to Under Sheriff Lamry, who has resigned, but he has done a great job and has served the county well through his years here as well. That should be mentioned.
Here. Wow. Supervisor Merlino.
Not to labor 381, but I just want to mention that the town of Lake Luzerne is in appreciation of what this board does by giving us some money for our milfoil project. A couple of years ago, we were spending $65,000 a year getting rid of milfoil. We own our own boat right now. Second year, we're down to $40,000. Also, we got a grant to research the land and help from Soil and Water and Freshwater Institute, and we went out and we took some samples of 20 spots on our lake 3 weeks ago, and it was a maze to me because I thought we'd be finding a lot of problems. E. coli and septic. We have 13 ones, 2 2s, 3 5s, an 8 and a 15. Anything under 100, they start questioning.
That's right.
So I think all the efforts that, thanks to the county monies that we get and our projects down on the lake, we have that lake under control.
Very good. Those are excellent results. Supervisor Stroud.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, on behalf of the Bloom Festival Committee, you have the new desktop calendars, and you have the agenda, and you also have this year's Bloom Festival pin, which are quite collector's items. There are people that rush to get those, and you've got them up front, so they're probably of value right now. I just want to give you a heads up on that. But again, and my other lapel pin is the one for Saga City, and I spent the last couple of days with the balloon team that's here from Saga City. So please give some recognitions and say, hello to them if you see them. So they're very involved and very nice people.
Very good. Supervisor Beatty.
Yeah, I just failed to mention that during my committee report, Don McGraw is doing a phenomenal job out at the airport, and our revenues are up. We're at $91,000, and actually it nets down to $46,000 ahead of last year. And I just want to say what a great job he's doing in increasing the revenue of the airport, so it decreases the burden on the taxpayer, and that's a great job he's doing.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Anyone else have an announcement? Supervisor Dickinson.
I'd just like to say Sunday the 22nd at 1 o'clock is our first annual revival of Community Day that we used to have in Lake George 31 years ago. The firemen put on a barbecue, clam bake. It's hosted by the Fort William Henry. There are a number of people involved. It is a benefit. All the proceeds go to WIN, Women in Need. Very active organization. It's a great event. The weather's supposed to be great. If you're going to come, you need to get tickets. Fort William Henry has them for sale in their shop online. You can get them at Mario's, or you can get them at the Prospect Diner. That's the Tin Diner in Lake George. And you're all part of our community, so you're all welcome to come. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn. Supervisor Simpson, Supervisor Dickinson on the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.